Let's fast forward to 2020, which is this year. Let's recap this year. So this year, what happened? Forgive me if I forget anything. At the beginning of the year, I remember hearing like Australian fires. There was the murder hornets and stuff like that. There's a lot of like just crazy things that happened. Fires, thefts, just racism. Oh, something called COVID that happened. Fires right now. Currently, I reside in California, so in Southern California actually, and there's been a lot of fires like the last month and stuff like that. So everything's been pretty much covered in ash. It's been bad. For me personally, let's see. Things were really rough at the beginning of the year, and then once everything went into like self-quarantine and stuff like that, a lot of layoffs and things. Luckily, I wasn't laid off. Not very, well, I can't say not very many people from my company got laid off. I actually don't know how many people from my company got laid off. I believe 2 from my area were laid off, and the rest of us were able to keep our jobs, so to speak. But we were all quarantined at home, so we were all working from home. A lot of like Zoom meetings and just a lot of over the phone kind of things. So we all had to do our jobs by phone from home, basically. And that was what, March till, I think we ended up going back to the offices with all the proper precautions put in place and, you know, all that kind of stuff for COVID. I think we went back, I want to say in June, early June maybe. Yeah. Personally in my life, somebody very close to me had breast cancer. She was diagnosed with breast cancer about 3 years ago in 2017. So that kind of uprooted my entire life. So I helped take care of her and things like that. That was a pretty rough time. And then she's a lot better now. And then somebody else very, very close to me, he ended up in the hospital earlier this year. So he was in the hospital from the weekend of Valentine's Day till Father's Day. He was in the hospital, and then he was moved to like a rehab, like medical, like wellness type of center where you can recuperate and stuff like that. So, and then that happened during quarantine. So I was really rough. I was kind of running back and forth like a whole bunch of different places before they actually did the shelter in place. So I was running, you know, from home to that facility or the hospital, depending on what time it was, and then work and stuff like that, or just running back and forth from home to there and things like that. When we all went into quarantine, we were not able to visit the facility, so that was kind of rough. We did still go maybe twice, but we had to kind of stay outside the building. Luckily, the facility that this particular family member was in, like the front of the building was all glass, so a lot of times we would just call ahead and like ask them, hey, can you bring out so and so to come to the window, and we would be able to talk to them like through phone or whatever through the window. So that went on for months, from basically March till June, when he had recovered enough to be able to be released and come back home. So that was kind of insane. And then, wouldn't you know it, a week later, I end up in the hospital. So literally, he came back on Father's Day in June, and then the following Friday actually, I was having some pain on my left side, and I was like, oh my God, this is not happening right now. Like this can't be happening right now. And I went to bed, woke up Saturday morning, and sure enough, I was still in pain. It wasn't as bad as it was in 2014, but I knew, like I like in my heart of hearts, I knew what was going on. So I ended up asking my mom, like, hey, can you take me to the emergency room? I'm having a lot of pain. I think I know what's going on, but I'm not sure. I just want to double check. So she was like, okay, sure, let's go. So, you know, because of COVID and everything, it's been crazy. It's been a crazy year, right? And I'm like, oh my God, like COVID, quarantine, people are sick, like businesses are like in jeopardy, people are losing their jobs, getting laid off because of what's going on. And now I'm sick. Like, no, like please, like come on, you know, like we can't even go outside as it is. Like what can I, like, oh no. So I ended up going to the emergency, and I told them like, hey, I was in the hospital 6 years ago. This specific hospital, actually, I was in here 6 years ago. And this is what happened. This is my GI doctor and stuff like that. And I told the doctors and the nurses everything. Like, hey, check my file. This is what's going on. So apparently in the emergency room, or at least for my hospital, they don't keep records older than 3 years. So they didn't have my ER records, I guess, there, like right off the hand, like right on hand. Because it was 6 years ago. So that was fine. Like, I just kind of told them what I needed to tell them, like what I remembered and stuff like that. Just to at least give them like a helping hand. Like, hey, you might want to look in this direction so we don't waste more time, because this is going to progress. And if my past has told me anything, this is what is going to happen. And sure enough, like, it was like the same. The pain was in the same place. The timing of the pain was in the same place. The medications that they gave me, like the painkillers that they gave me that did not work after a certain amount of time, same thing. And I was just like, oh my God, what is going on? I remember they admitted me into the hospital that evening on Saturday. And I remember at some point there was a doctor that came in, a female doctor that came in, and she walked over and she was like, Alice, and I said, oh, hi, you know, and she's like, hey, I'm Dr. So-and-so, and I'm like, oh, hello, how are you? And she said, I'm good. And she wasn't my attending doctor from the ER. She was actually another doctor that happened to be in the ER. And she had heard about what was going on. She had heard from like the nurses and the doctors, like, okay, like, you know, I guess like she heard them talking about my specific case and stuff like that. And turns out she remembered. And it turns out that she was also in the emergency room 6 years ago when I had gone in. So she actually remembers my case. Like, she remembers like everything that happened to me, because she was part of like the team, I guess you can call it, from the ER department 6 years ago. So I was like, oh my God, somebody actually knows what's going on. Like, you remember, so you can let them know, and da-da-da. And she's like, yes, all the doctors know, you know, I kind of filled them in on what I can remember. So they are looking at everything and things like that. So I was like, oh my God, hopefully things will go a lot smoother this time. You know, and I was like thinking, oh my gosh, is it like another infection? Like, what's going on? Because in 2014, after like everything was said and done and whatnot, my GI doctor did tell me that there's a good chance that this could happen again. And there were some medications that he had recommended, or he had mentioned to me, like bile thinners, to help thin out my bile so it'll kind of drain out of my liver, like the floppy tubes and everything, a little easier. But there was no research, there were no studies done on it, because my condition is so rare. They have the medication, but it doesn't mean that they have any research done on it. So they don't really understand the side effects, if it's even useful, things like that. So I decided to opt out of it, because I was just like, you know what, like, no, I'm okay. That doctor ended up prescribing me stomach tranquilizers and things like that, because I did have some other issues. Like, I would get pain in there, in like right here in the midsection, from time to time. I also have like GERD. I also have acid reflux. So yes, that adds to it. But it, like, when you're in my shoes, like, you can feel the difference between if it's just heartburn or if that's a problem, you know. So because I was having so much pain there, he did prescribe me stomach tranquilizers. So I take those off and on depending on when I need them and stuff like that, right? So anyways, back to this year. So In June, the week after Father's Day, I was admitted. That female doctor came in and said like, hey, yeah, I remember your case from 6 years or from, you know, in the past, like, wow, you know. And so what they found, because they did do the MRI, the CT scan, and, you know, x-rays and stuff like that. So this time what they found was not the same type of infection as they found 6 years ago. So I had, what did I have? Oh, what is that procedure? Endoscopy. So I had an endoscopy. And so they knocked me out for that because I had to put like a camera down your throat. Well, I guess they can do it one of two ways. They can either put it down your throat or up your, you know. So for me, they did it through my throat. So they put me under. They had the camera go inside. The gastroenterologist that was on duty, that picked up my case, that was in the ER at the time. He did the endoscopy. He found a blockage, basically right at the mouth, so to speak, where my tube connects to my liver. I have a blockage there. So they didn't know what it was at first. But they did find out that there was a blockage. It was basically blocking my bile from being able to drain out of my liver. That was what was causing the pain, you know, and it was bad, you know. So the GI doctor ended up taking a biopsy of the blockage and sent it off to the labs. So I came out of the endoscopy, and I remember some of the nurses coming to tell me like, hey, how are you feeling, you know, from the procedure and stuff like that. One particular nurse, I'm assuming he's a nurse, I really don't know, he came in to check on me, and he, talking casually, he just kind of like mentioned in passing, you know, what the doctor thought it could be, and things like that. So that's why they did a biopsy. That was when I found out that they did a biopsy, actually. He said that they did a biopsy and they sent it off to get tested. And I should get the results probably in like, you know, a day or two or something like that. So I think it was about a day or two later, somebody came and told me about the results of my test. By then, my pain was more under control. They ended up, like I said, like I told them, they ended up having to put me on Dilaudid through an IV because I was in so much pain. So I was in the hospital for pretty much almost exactly a week. Actually, it was a week. I went in the Saturday after Father's Day, and I was released from the hospital on July 4th, so of this year. So I was in the hospital for exactly a week, and they actually, no, they had not gotten the results of my biopsy back yet. I didn't get those results until I had already come home, and I was already home for maybe like a week. And that first week, I'm telling you, was brutal. Like, I was in so much pain. So what they ended up doing to me at the hospital is I ended up having another procedure where they put in that same drain tube. The entire situation was the same. I was completely awake. I had to go into radiology because radiology, I guess, was the people that actually inserted the tube. My original GI doctor from, oh no, I guess that, yeah, that was it. My original GI doctor from 6 years ago, he was the one that took over since I had already left or I wasn't in the emergency room anymore, you know. Let me see. Oh, no, that wasn't him. That was a different procedure. I'm sorry. So the ER GI doctor, so he was the one that put the camera down my throat. And then radiology, they had somebody in radiology, once again, just like 6 years ago, put the tube right under my boob, drainage tube. Yes, so now I have, I don't want to show it, it's kind of gross. I mean, some people get really disturbed by that, but I once again now have another drainage tube going into my left side, same place. And again, I was awake for the entire thing. Anesthesiologist was so super sweet. She held my hand the whole entire time. I can hear the doctor like, 1 more milligram of Dilaudid, 1 more milligram of Dilaudid. Alice, move here. Alice, shift here. Like, I was completely awake. I'm screaming my head off. And I oh man, like just talking about it, like, oh my God. I literally, like, he went in and out like 3 times. Like, when I looked at this area afterwards, I had like 3 different holes, like 3 different holes that he had tried to poke through to get into my body. So basically what he did was, again, I'm gonna scoot back a little bit. So like, here's my boob, right? So the tube is right here. I don't know if you can see that. Okay, just like it was 6 years ago, maybe like over a little bit, okay? But the tube comes all the way across into like the center of my body, okay? So I can feel it, like certain ways that I move or if I crunch down and stuff like that, I can actually feel like where it is. The blockage is like right here, okay? So I can feel like I felt them put the tube at it hitting my rib bone like 2-3 times, like scraping your rib bone. Now the tube is, I would say, right above my very last, actually it's probably in between my last 2 rib bones at the bottom. Like, that's where it is. And it goes all the way across into like where the liver and the blockage is. So most of the blockage, if you remember, I explained the liver lobes earlier. So it's like right here on the left side. From what the doctors and everybody have told me from all the tests that I've done and everything, it is more so on the left side, like the left tube, left lobe. And it's just blocking everything right there. So the reason why I have the drain tube, it goes through the blockage and everything. That way, whatever bile that my body is producing, it's able to drain out. If it's not able to drain into my small intestines, it's draining into a bag by way of the drain tube on the outside of my body. So yes, I'm walking around with a freaking drain tube and a bag attached to my body. Yay. Fun. No, not really. It's painful and it's very, very inconvenient. But I'm managing. So I've had this tube in for, well, since end of July, end of June, beginning of July of this year. So it's September now, so it's been like 2 months. And I'm probably going to have it still, like, I'm probably going to have this drain tube clear until, I would say, maybe early part of next year. And that is because once I got home from the hospital, about a week later was when I found out the results of the biopsy. And it turns out I have cancer. The blockage in my liver is cancer. So what the doctor is kind of describing it as, like the official name, I guess you can call it, is Cholangio Carcinoma. Yeah, like, so it's like biliary cholangio carcinoma or something like that. So from what I understand, there is no like direct, like it's not in my liver, thankfully, but it's right at the opening. So it's sort of like half in my liver, half in a bile duct, you know, if that makes sense. So they're categorizing it more as like a bile cancer than a liver cancer. And so that is why my treatment is a little, well, So my treatment's a little different. I eventually will have to have surgery. A lot of times it's more, I guess it's, from what the doctors tell me, it's more common to have surgery and then have chemotherapy treatments. But in my case, because of what's going on and because it's my liver and where the blockage is and things like that, they have opted to do chemotherapy first. Reasoning is they want to be able to shrink the cancer cells as much as possible. So when they do operate and they do go in to remove the blockage and stuff like that, they can remove as little as possible. Reason being is if I were to have the surgery right now to remove the blockage and everything, because of what the PET scan showed, I would have to have probably about 70 to 75% of my liver removed because of where the PET scan shows where all the cancer cells are. So apparently a person can live with can survive with like 25% of their liver function. So that's why they, you know, anyways, but what's important to them is that they don't want to take that much, right? So my surgeons, my doctors, my oncologists and everything, they actually took my case to the board. I don't know if it's the hospital board or whatever. So other doctors can kind of consult with them and see if that is what the best course of treatment is, you know, to go through chemo, see how much they can shrink down, with however many treatments to shrink down all the cancer cells, and then operate to get the most optimum results, meaning I can keep more of my liver, you know, things like that. So that's where we're at right now. I have, again, this is the third time I've had an issue in this general area, and again, I'm told that this is a very unique situation. So I mean, I always knew I was special. Anyways, but this is just a little, it makes me a little bit more special, I guess you can say. Very unique in this case. So at this point it is, what is it? Where's my phone? It is, it's the 21st of September. I actually have already done 2 completed sessions. I actually start my 3rd session this coming Thursday. Today's Monday. So this Thursday I'm going to be starting my 3rd session. I'm on like a 3-week course. So the first 2 weeks I have chemo treatments, and then the 3rd week I don't. And that's 1 session. And then I start the next session, again, 2 weeks of chemo, 1 week off, and that's another session, and then so on and so forth. So what my oncologist wants to try, or my oncologist or my surgeon, what they hope to do is 4 sessions of chemotherapy, and then do another PET scan to kind of see how my body is responding, if the cancer cells are shrinking and things like that. And then from that PET scan, my oncologist and my surgeon will talk and see if, you know, how many more sessions that they want me to go through. So I think my oncologist has me scheduled for up to 8 sessions total. Like 8 complete sessions total. So it could be as much as 8, it could be fewer. I mean, I don't know for sure. I'm gonna have to have at least 4 sessions and then reevaluation. So that's where we're at right now. I'm gonna try to get this video up as soon as possible, sort of like my intro, like, hey, this is my story, this is what's going on with me in beautiful 2020. I apologize if I'm a little bit all over the place. This has been a lot for me to try to deal with and try to handle. Please feel free to ask any questions if I confused anybody or if I was just kind of jumbled and all over the place. Please feel free to leave comments, questions in the comment section. yeah, I mean, anything you want to ask me, anything you want to know or anything like that. I might, not only is this a crazy year for all of us, but going through something like cancer is, it's a lot, you know? I've had people around me that have been diagnosed with cancer, and so I understand it, I know about it, you know, I've seen how people can bounce back, you know, and that's not even the thing. I mean, it's just emotionally, psychologically, physically, it's a lot. It's a lot for your body, you know what I mean? And if anybody sees us that actually knows me in real life, you probably will have an idea of how much of an impact this has had on me. And if you know me at all, seeing me with short hair, like, this is crazy short to me. Once I got back from the hospital, I was laying in bed all the time because I was in so much pain. I just gotten back from the hospital and stuff like that, so I was in a lot of pain, and I was laying down so much that I just didn't want to deal with my hair. So one day I just kind of like, wow. But as many of you know, I'm going through chemotherapy, so yeah. Anyways, that's all for now, guys. I actually am feeling really tired right now. I get tired really easily lately, and things like that, but I do have some videos after this that I want to put up. They were actually filmed before. I tried to film like my experience going through first chemo session, second chemo session. I want to continue that. I don't know where I'm going to be going with all of this or how it's going to develop, but we're going to play it by ear, you know, because I do want to document this. I do want to remember this later on, and, you know, I may not remember everything. Hair's coming out in droves, guys. Anyways, yeah, I'm sorry. Anyways, I'm gonna go for now. Thank you for watching. Please share my story with anybody who may think that they need, you know, somebody else to kind of like help them through, or you know, see that somebody else is going through something like this. I wanted to make this video because not only to document, but to also share my story. A lot of people in my life know, but they might not know the ins and outs. Strangers obviously don't have a clue. And this is sort of a unique case that I sort of wanted to share as well, just so we all know. Yeah, I don't know. Okay, so there you have it, guys. That's all for now. I'm gonna go. I'm actually feeling really tired. I'm probably gonna take a nap, or at least lay down or something like that. Yeah, thank you for watching. Please like and share, and leave any questions or comments or anything like that that you have in the comment section below, and I will see you soon.